Hello and welcome back to the sparkly new Blizzard Arena here in Burbank, California. We've seen two dominant victories by MVP Black and CE 2-0, both of them. And now it is time for the winners matchup between those two Titan teams here in Group A of the open bracket for the HGC finals. Let's head on over to the desk to Kalaris and crew to get their thoughts.
Actually, Cloakun, I think you'll find it's an analysis concave as made by the MSB back in the day. I say back in the day, it was a few months ago. That's
It was
fine.
back in the day, though.
It was kind of back in the day. I'm joining with me is Trixler, Wolf, and Gillyweed. Trixler, you're very close to. I know you've missed me. All right,
I kind of miss you.
I know you've missed me. I know you've got your lava wave haircut going on
I
and
like
everything
your hair.
like that.
Your hair's nice.
He's a scary individual.
It's been a while.
If you scoot.
I'm sorry.
We're good. We're good.
We're good.
Keep him away from me with his lava waves. I don't want any of that.
Nobody wants
I'm
to
not
get
toxic. Like, we can hang out. We're good.
All right, enough chaos. For now, we have another series coming up. Let's just kind of recap what we've seen there. CE looking very, very strong. Gilly, what did you make of the CE coming in against Tempo Storm?
So happy that CE came in with a sub with Locktar, that they put KTY on the flexing position.
Yeah.
I felt like of KTY and Suyu, as far as ranged assassins, Suyu was the strongest one. So I'm so happy to see that Locktar was there as the ranged assassin and KTY was the flex, but also just that the emphasis that they've gotten, the inspiration from SPT, that they were not always giving fights to Tempo Storm when Tempo wanted it.
Yeah, I actually think that KTY was the MVP of that second game in particular, shutting down the mosh pits, being out of range of the mosh pits to get the sound barriers up. The Lucio presence that made Fury's life hell in that second game, I think that was really fun to watch. And I think KTY is one of the Lucio players to look out for in this tournament.
For me, it's Tyrael already back in the tournament. Tyrael always shows up at every single international event, and CE comes in and shows why he is that strong. Wings looking particularly great there, and I feel like going forward, that Tyrael is going to be highly contested.
There's a few of us that aren't complaining that Tyrael's back and good to go, ready to go, as the Chinese teams always end up showing us. Of course, we have our next match coming up in a few moments' time. We have CE going up against MVP Black to determine who's going to be the first place in Group A. Let's talk about this match. We saw CE going into those first two drafts with Rhaegar Lucio. That was what looked like a very strong staple for them. Are we expecting that again? Are we expecting MVP Black to try and control that? What are we thoughts?
I mean, CE can play a variety of heroes, right? They can pull it off, but I mean, Rhaegar Lucio looked great. You're completely correct with Lucio controlling the field of battlefield. It looked like the tanks, if they are controlled well, and Lucio comes in and do that, it seems like CE is ready to engage.
Certainly. I think that, MV Black will favor those support players as well, or those support heroes, I should say, as well. But so far today, we're seeing mostly the Task Star Tracer, Commitment Tracer being pushed up to the top, the Brightwing removal to empower that Tracer play. So I think when you look at what MV Black is doing right now, I think maybe trying to draft around the Tracer is going to be the way instead of just trying to get those supports.
But if they continue into the Tracer, Lucio is one hero that people like to use to counter her, and that is because of Sound Barrier and the healing that he can give, as well as something like a Sanctification. Having Tyrael and Lucio, we saw it in Game 1 from Tempo Storm. They could not break through those heroic abilities, and CE weren't even perfectly timing those out. There was some overlap with Sanctification and with Sound Barrier, but on the other side of that, the Korean teams that play double support, these three teams that we have here, they will never overlap abilities like that. It is so freaking rare, and you have to be able to have perfect timings from all of those one after another. It's almost like a game of chicken to who loses all their supporting abilities first.
Well, let's focus on MVP Black now, of course, as they come in as arguably one of the strongest contenders for the entire tournament here. Looking against CE, are they worried? What do you think their kind of anticipation is going into the series?
I really think they're not worried. I think they've prepared well for this group. I think that, my experience talking to Black before coming here, that CE was not really a concern for them. They knew CE would probably be their opponent. They expected them to beat Tempo Storm. And I think that what's really cool about what Black has shown us so far in these first stages is really reminiscent to me of going back to DreamHack Summer last year, the Summer Global Championship.
Yeah.
We saw that when they defeated Renovatio on opening day, it was that same sort of like flaunting the look, we have this butcher pick, you have to keep this in mind. Let's show this already. It's kind of fan service at the same time. I think they're coming in this group very confident. And they prepared mostly for CE here more than Tempo Storm, and I think they'll be able to deal with those support prioritizations pretty well.
Yeah, I wondered if the Butcher was this tournament's Samuro, like when Fnatic busted that out.
That was exactly where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Great minds think alike, Gilly. Absolutely. But at the same time, we saw in those first 2 games from MVP Black a focus on Morales. They seem to have a lot of strength behind that.
Well, especially with the Muradin being picked up in the front side and Garrosh too. Those are heroes that can really mix well with the Morales because you can protect her, but also stay in a safe spot to where Muradin or even other tanks like Garrosh and ETC can come back to her. It's a great combo, a great duel that we've seen in the past.
I think Morales is really empowering in the double support meta of a hyper carry of any kind, including the Tracer, who has that burst potential with Pulse Bomb, especially post 10. But in the early game, if you're playing against a team that sometimes makes positional mistakes, suddenly Morales becomes a threat even with her grenade. The grenade activation there, knocking one of the squishies, or even the tank into a position where he's just out of range of his supports, gets hit by that pulse bomb, and that's one of the reasons why Morales is so strong in Korea right now.
Well, let's check in with the HGC universe and see how you guys at home are dealing with that progress bar for HGC cheers at the moment. You haven't unlocked me personally, my deadly Chaos Lizard yet. If you could kindly do that with more cheers.
You identify as a Chaos Lizard? A deadly
do.
one?
A deadly one, not an arcane one.
Yeah, we jumped up
Is it
quite
the
a
hair
bit.
color?
It is.
The horn color?
If you look at it, it relates very well. So you guys cheer at home. Make sure to cheer for your favorite teams and get that progress bar going. Get that feels glad man going. All those kinds of things. Very important.
Incredibly close. I remember, gosh, my first number that I remember was 18 million, I believe, and that was a good 6-7 weeks ago. We've had so much progress, and it looks like as we get closer to Blizzcon, this is actually going to be finished up, which is something that is impressive in itself.
Yeah, I'm excited to get my own Chaos Lizard. I want to channel my inner Calaris, pretend like I was as good of a desk host as you when I ride it. So.
I appreciate that. I can take that one. Okay, let's see which battleground we're going to be going to here for our series to start things off. CE is taking us to Infernal Shrines. We've had quite a variety here to start off the day. No map the same. So what are we thinking of Infernal Shrines between these two teams?
I think it's always been a really good map for MVP Black, especially with the heroes that are empowered in the solo lane right now. I think Rich on either Sonya or Dahaka are really good for this map. So it actually kind of favors MVP Black, in my opinion. I like the Sky Temple ban coming out from CE as MVP Black just dominates that map in terms of macro rotations, gets that early lead. And since it's a pretty snowbally map, I think it's a very wise decision by CE here to ban that.
Kind of interesting to see CE ban that, though, considering that in the league play, that was one of their most favored battlegrounds to choose. But what I've also been looking at is MVP's battleground switch-up. Warhead Junction is far more normal to what we expect to see as a ban from MVP Black, and yet on their first series versus Deadly Kittens, they ended up banning Battlefield of Eternity. So I am still waiting to see why exactly we saw them ban that out. Maybe they had a strategy that they did not want to reveal on that map just yet.
Maybe. All right, let's get into it. Game number 1, the draft begins. CE goes up against MVP Black to advance on to the quarterfinals and advance on to BlizzCon.
And the opening ban here is going to be that Rhaegar. Auriel looking like it might be the answer here from CE. Both supports great on this battleground. CE, if you want to be a little bit more grouped up, that Auriel is always great, but Rhaegar helps clear out the minions, allows you to get those punishers and keep moving forward. And that's going to be a real important point for both of our teams. What will they be grabbing to make sure they can contest the shrines? Sonya will be a first pick here for MVP Black.
And this goes back to that solo lane hero that's great on the shrines. Sonya can solo shrine, and one of Rich's best heroes, and it's dominating the top lane matchup right now when Malthael is removed away. So I like this. You don't want to blind pick the Brightwing first that MVP Black's been banning so much right now, because if you do, then Black just moves away from that style. So I think that, like, you go to the Sonya here early, you're controlling that top lane. CE is probably frustrated with this situation now, but how they counter it, I think, is... we're going to learn a lot about what their strategy going into this best of 3 is going to be right now in these first 2 picks.
Yeah, CE used to want to get Sonya as well as Rhaegar before the second bans on Infernal Shrines, and now Rhaegar's been taken away. Sonya has been taken away. They used to pick a lot of Malthael, but they had changed that up with Sonya's popularity to get Sonya and then ban Malthael. So that's maybe why we're seeing them take this full amount of time, seeing that MVP Black has done their research, or at least has seen what they played in the last match versus Tempo Storm. They're once again going to get their Garrosh and pick up an early Brightwing.
Brightwing and Garrosh, not a bad combo. Brightwing very popular in Korea, one that you will see picked up very often with her ability to global soak. Most even believe her to be a bit stronger than Dahaka, which is odd to say, but Korea really loves their Brightwing, so CE takes the opportunity to grab it for themselves.
If there was any attempt at space control, it's certainly that one. Isolate and then Emerald Wind away. Let's try and kill that target fast.
Well, we're going to see the Uther Greymane pick up here. This is kind of old school for Phase 2, and it wasn't always seen towards the end of Phase 2 for the Korean scene. But they were obviously going to move away from the Tracer after the Brightwing came in. When given the opportunity to ban the Brightwing, that's the Blacks' go-to. Knowing CE was pushing towards that Rhaegar style and the Lucio you guys were talking about, that's the angle they took, and they're just adapting here with the Greymane as a result. So I like this, just moving into a different hyper carry here.
Well, I was thinking that maybe CE would want to get Tyrael. We've seen how strong Wind is with Tyrael, but Wind also was playing Garrosh in the last game. I'm not sure if Paradise would feel as comfortable with Tyrael. And in this case, then, that still leaves Tyrael as a possibility to go along with this Greymane Uther, just constant invulnerability.
Yeah, I'd prefer that ban to the Stukov ban because it obviously synergized with Sonya as well. It gives her a lot of protection there. So, yeah, the Stukov ban obviously removes a lot of the zone control for MVP Black, but I don't personally like it as much as the Tyrael ban. I think the Tyrael ban goes back to the style of Black when running these types of comps.
The Stukov ban, though, kind of screams to me pretty heavily. They want to maybe move into a Lenara, though, really wanting to stress their opponent. Stukov is great at countering that. It does require a bit of a slower style from CE, so it's kind of odd to mix it with the Garrosh, but with the Stukov being banned out, 5 supports being moved forward, MVP Black, it's a little bit lower on the possibilities for supports they can grab to handle that type of poison.
What are we thinking about? Aside from the Lunara, any other damage that may come in for CE?
Well, we're testing Locktar for sure.
Yeah,
That's a Greymane who's already been taken, and then Cassia was banned. So if not that, it's just about, like, there's Vala that's still up if you want that kind of hyper carry that you have. You definitely need somebody who's going to be able to do a lot of damage to the Shrine, be able to give that kind of Shrine presence to the team.
I don't think we're leaning towards, like, some sort of meta shift here to, like, a mage play. Like,
yeah, I was just wondering that, like,
Gul'dan?
maybe Gul'dan or Kael'thas.
Gul'dan or Kael'thas are thinking
like,
the
as the stun
options.
follow-up.
The Lucio and the Muradin here, I don't think that's going to be the case. They want to... See, this is a moment... I like this moment in the draft here for CE because there's not an obvious pick with the range DPS is available for carry.
Right,
so they just do a safe second support into a Muradin. They're going to leave the DPS that's something well-suited for Black's last picks. I like that move a lot.
Maybe this is something special. If you look at how that's worked out when it comes to having that last slot open, and you're going up against a team where you think that they are world champion caliber. How do we defeat them? Well, you could see something special.
It could be. It could also be because they want to leave it open-ended. They want to see what extra support.
Why do you have to rain on our parade?
I know. I'm just saying. Like,
Mr. Lava Wet, Mr. Tricks Wacky Meta over here.
You know what?
Just said.
You know what?
something
It's
normal.
definitely a Murky. 150% there. I think mostly it's going to leave it open, right? They've already gone through what we've already seen from MVP Black. If they go with the solo Uther, that Lenara becomes more tasty. If there's enough support they pick up, like Karazim's still available,
Yeah.
Lenara not so much.
I think Morales is still a possibility here.
True.
And the Tyrael is strong.
Oh.
We're going to see Ana here actually coming out with the Arthas pick. The Arthas is a safe one to pick when you don't know what the DPS is going to be. This well-rounds the composition because you have kind of two tanks in a way, with Sonya being the bruiser but still very tanky with the Uther comp. And Ana's going to give a lot of extra healing to those tanks.
Yeah.
Exciting to see the first Ana here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are theorizing a power, saying this is situational, but I think a healing potential behind all of that is extremely scary.
Zul!
Wow.
I just want to say, well played, Gillyweed. She
Thank
did the
you.
motion before it even came in.
Yeah, I was throwing some axes over your way,
yeah.
all the way across the desk.
Yeah.
We have him, Zul'jin. We have heard from quite a lot of teams, not only about Ana, but about Zul'jin too, where his power level lies with his rework. And
Yes.
in general, it seemed like it was more of a, well, he's good, but there are other hyper carries that are just better. Things like Vala, things like Greymane. But in this instance, a lot of things were gone here, and China has been known to play Zul'jin here and again. I'm excited to see it busted out here.
I think Zul'jin's really good with Lucio and Brightwing because you manage the threshold of low health, high attack speed without dying. And when things get rash, you just Taz Dingo, you survive, do that extra damage. But throughout this game, he's going to have to build his baseline damage. It's going to take a long time. And MVP Black is known to finish games on this map very quickly. I don't know if this Zul'jin pick is going to work out. Even though it's good for the draft, I think it's not good against Black's playstyle.
It's exciting.
That's a great actual point that you brought up there, though, Wolf, is because this is something that I've been theorizing since the change came along, can a Zul'jin at this top tier of play get that quest finished when you know that there's the potential to be punished behind that, and that's something that's got to be scary, right?
Well, the nice thing is, at least it is Infernal Shrines that we're going to. It's a 1-4 battleground in general, so they can keep Zul'jin there and know that he is going to be in a position where he can have people to auto-attack. The problem with that is he's got to be careful. Sleep Dart is a problem for them, and it is going to be followed up with a lot of different things, a lot of different crowd control because Uther is there as well as Muradin. So it's all about the positioning and making sure that he is in a good position and protected by his Garrosh's Brightwing.
Well, don't forget, guys, you can vote out there as well as to who you think is going to be victorious here in this series, and most importantly, who is going to be moving through to the quarterfinals and at Blizzcon, as our commentary team is now ready to go to find out who is going to be moving on. So without further ado, CE goes up against MVP Black.
Hilarious, and our first game here in the winner bracket final is already pretty amazing. Zul'jin is a great pick, and I'm happy that we're seeing him here.
I mean, the first time we're going to see the Eastern Clash almost have a repeat with both MVP Black taking on CE, looking to secure that #1 spot, and what better way to drum up some energy by getting the Zul'jin, getting the Ana, and getting a cool game.
The one thing that we heard about from basically every single team is that they all think Zul'jin currently is a little bit undervalued, but very few actually expected to see him a lot at the event here. So it's pretty cool to already have the Chinese team using him here against MVP Black, who actually is the favorite for most teams that are at the event right now to reach at least the finals.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams have said that, you know, Korea have just stepped it up a significant level since the mid-season brawls, since the clashes as well. So Europe, they were the top dog for a while, but Korea want to reclaim that crown. They want to come back in. And I mean, Zul'jin, you just begged the question before. A lot of people said, yes, he's been reworked, but there are better choices to pick. But see, you don't think so.
Yeah, at this point, of course, we're going to head straight now our first game, Infernal Shrines, the best of 3 starting up here. CE going up against MVP Black, and we're going to find out which one of these two teams takes the lead in the best of 3 series.
There we go, jumping into it now from China, CE. Locked out on Zul'jin, Wind on Garrosh. Paradise and Muradin, KTY and Lucio, and a Luflol, right wing.
Yeah, CE, the Chinese team here, of course, doing a great job already against an a bit early on against Tempo Storm. And to the right side, it's MVP Black with Lokta on Zul'jin, Zaka on Uther. And Lokta is a little bit on a different team here. Reset actually on Greyman, as you can see. We have Tist on Arthas right now, Kyoja on Ana, and of course, Rich on Sonya. And the one that we missed was, I think, Zaka on Uther.
Go, jumping into game #1. Paradise. Rework Muradin. We've seen this trend with Third Wind continuing around. There goes the Sleep Dart to open things up. We're on towards Wind. He is going to run away. Nice and beefy as Garrosh with that armor neatly built in there. As the skirmish breaks out. Fantastic map for Ana, looking to utilize the Piercing Dart quest, looking to try and generate that up as quickly as possible. Double heals, double stuns. Double ways to find those initiations. That's going to be Rich jumping in with the Ancient Spear. He gets flipped away. Wellwyn going to find a fair bit of sustain for him as they come around for the turnaround, looking for that first blood, and Brightwing falls.
Brightwing going down, and she might not be the only one. The second kill as Zul'jin is also annihilated, and MVP Black opening up the game with a 2-0 kill lead here. There's a lot of stuff, of course, to talk about. We already mentioned Muradin, and we have heard others already talk about him. He's insanely strong right now. He's been a constant theme when teams were talking about the current meta, that he is one of the big staples, especially since with the synergy that you have with your level 7 and your level 16 and later on, you just have so much mobility, and you are posing such a huge threat all of a sudden with Muradin to the backline of your opponents. We're going to see a lot of aggressive play there. Talking about aggression already, CE with another attempt to take down Tist.
And they are. Tist is going to find a fair bit of damage on towards him. The team come through with the rotation. They do manage to get him away, but the rotations have been clean and they've been quick for MVP Black so far, finding themselves in a half-level lead as once again Tist is in the front line, scouting out, getting that valuable information. And KTY, I mean, he's having an absolute blast on this Lucio, boosting around this map.
At the same time, also when we're looking at the talents that have so far been taken, one of the things that also stands out a little bit is that on Brightwing, we're now seeing a Lufu with Dream Shot on level 1, so definitely going to work around Arcane Flare a little bit more. Also helps, of course, with the control over the minion count when your objective comes into play, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now as MVP Black moves up top together with CE, who now move in with KTY to make it a 4 versus 4.
4v4, both supports in the bottom lane, but Brightwing will have that advantage, able to phase shift in at a moment's notice when needed. dudes, 10 in favor right now. MVP Black taking the lead down. One there goes to Sleep Dart to start things off with. Will allow Test to then guarantee that Howling Blast to connect. A lot of lockdown that MVP Black can acquire to allow both Sonya and Greymane to find that kill.
Both of them are currently on level 4, so they have the extra talent in, but as you said, Brightwing can move in if need be. For now, Black is actually ahead when it comes to the count. Here comes Brightwing. The 5 versus 4 started. Uther is on the way. Paradise barely getting out now, though, as KTY is the center of attention for MVP Black, but Lucio is able to move away. And now we're having finally Saka also joining up. But MVP Black already doing a fantastic job in a 4 versus 5 situation.
Man, you got to look at the stats and say, you know, nobody died from CE, but both, or actually 2 members from CE got extremely low. And that's enough for MVP Black to continue this control on the point. 25 in climbing off the 40 required. Sake's taking a lot of damage right now. He's going to run in, looking for that depth so he can continue the hills. And that's going to be enough now for MVP Black to stick around a little bit further. Test is dropping low. The attention has been switched on to Risa. However, the polymorph, the damage, the kill. And that is 2, as CE look to try and take control back themselves.
CE going in for a 3rd one. Kyoja goes down. Ana dead. And great play by the Chinese team. MVP Black definitely the one at the beginning of the entire tournament to make their stance, but now all of a sudden CE comes in, they drop Sonya, but they lose Suljin, but it's in the end nearly a complete team wipe against MVP Black. The Punisher is still claimed, of course, by them, but the Chinese team have definitely shown that when it comes to team fight control, they're doing a fantastic job here, and that frontline combo with Garrosh and Murden is starting to look pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's their biggest strength. We've asked all these Chinese teams, you know, what defines you? Say, as a region, we are known for aggression. We want to have those team fights. We want to make sure our team fight is strong to make up for those other areas that lack. That might be split push, that might be globals, that might be macro as a whole. And right there, you can see the idea from MVP Black was, let's finish this one off between both Test and Rich. Let's try and run away, because then that Punisher can act as that 3rd member in the team fight. It wasn't enough. 5 members go down, but still, even Stevens, 6-all.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we still have to talk about. Obviously, when you're talking about Anna, we normally see her in the double support combos, and one of the most important things when playing with her is trying to complete the quest of piercing jars, just so that you have the extra range. The range increase by 50% allows you to be a bit safer in the backline. The problem that we have in this situation right now is that Anna still oftentimes finds herself in range of Garrosh if he's able to step out, and then those flips become extremely dangerous. But even later on, once Muradin has his 16, he can still jump into the backline and try to apply pressure onto her. And then Uther would have to react with a potential Divine Shield even, which in a normal situation, he would rather save for Greymane, for Sonya, depending on the situation, to allow the 2 damage dealers to go way deeper into the opponent's setup and apply pressure themselves. So it's an interesting dynamic that we have here.
Absolutely. You see there, once again, Kyocha on the hunt for those Sleep Dart quests. As you mentioned, yeah, I know, very much the same as Morales in the fact that, you know, she doesn't have that mobility. She can output a ton of sustained healing to amplify with that biotic grenade for the amplification there too. But if you jump onto her, she is a sitting duck in the water, and that's something that definitely CE will be looking to utilize. There's the stun comes across, Wind utilizing the armor, no heals, no potential to run away, or does he? He proves me otherwise. Up to 42 armor, gets the jump on back through, but Test, I mean, he's hungry.
Killing Garrosh is definitely always a choice. It's always one of those things you finally think you have him, but thanks to the trade, of course, it's incredibly difficult. We haven't really talked too much about Suljin and his build just yet, but let's take a closer look at Loktar. We currently have on level 1 Recklessness taken, but of course on level 4 it's the Armani Rage, which is really the crucial talent here. It's such a cool tool that you have now after the rework that can instantly drop 50% of your health. And that, of course, works with especially a mage build incredibly well. The Arcanite Axis on level 7 with the cooldown reduction alone, that already really helps you to just like get that damage in over and over again. And as we see that next Punisher, the next Shrine activating on the map, we're also closing in slowly and steadily on level 10, where things are going to get really interesting here.
Absolutely, especially as soon as Guillotine is unlocked out there for Loktar and Zul'jin, looking for that one shot.
Exactly.
Rich, you jump on in. Greymane, you jump on in. Well, hang on, you're deleted, and there's no chance for a response by Sake with the Divine Shield as the fight breaks on out here in the bottom lane. The flip is onto Reset, the polymorph to follow things up with. He has to jump away, and he does jump away as now double flips come across. It's going to be Lucio to fall on down first. A double kill as MVP Black smell blood in the water.
MVP Black going in, going deep, trying to get the triple, and they do. Zul'jin down, Muradin barely getting away, as we still see Sonya on the point. Rich is collecting one card after another, making sure that they now get another Punisher as well. But you could see the idea of CE. I mean, the whole thought process chances here, after heavy impact for Muradin has come online, is get the flip with Garrosh, get your combo, and then Muradin starts to jump in, hits the initial stun, drops the Stormbolt, and tries to lock the target down long enough for Suljan to get all the damage in. And just imagine that now with Guillotine later on as well. If you can make that play, you can get a lot of potential instant kills. But so far, MVP Black doesn't really allow it. They go in again and they take down Muradin.
Oh, Paradise so upset there. He's actually going for that Dwarven toss, but the Howling Blast comes across and locks him in place. And just like that, Reset jumping across for that Reset. Doesn't find it on his go for the throat, but he gets the kill nonetheless. And now this Punisher will find value. Punisher in the bot lane, defended here by Lokta. The rest of MVP just rotate through to the mid lane. They want macro. This is their map. They're cycling through chronologically, taking down every single structure they can and surmount this lead.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting now, because at this point, CE, of course, can try and get their combos off as well. And we once again look towards Garrosh for the initiation, and then Muradin with a follow-up, Brightwing even, with the Emerald Wind, able to just like push them out properly. And with those isolations, you can really get good kills, especially against double support combos with a Divine Shield available on Uther. Those panic buttons that exist for MVP Black only come into play if Uther is able to get close enough here. But then at the same time, Black has really been driving the aggression here, but they're only one level ahead. So they have been able to take down 2 forts, but they only have a 1-level lead. Of course, it still helps them with the structural position on the map, but CE still has a few chances and a couple of team fights left in them here.
And I mean, we knew this game was going to be a clash of the clans in the sense that, you know, both of these teams want to fight. They want to force those kills. We're seeing so far 12 between both of them. And this is looking like a 13th. If we can jump into this one here, no, this time Paradise does connect. Imagine that, the sleep dart did happen mid-animation. They might still chase on through, but no, Wind comes up with the boys. They're saying, let's go for that fight. Sound barrier dropped on down, and now Paradise jumping in with that level 7 instantly. The Divine Shield coming on out to make sure that things do stay around. But Garrosh, with the Warlord's challenge, doing what he can, but it's not gonna be enough. He is gonna be the first one to fall. 2 frontliners gone like that. And well, MVP Black, they're hungry. They want kills.
Oh yeah, they definitely want this. And it's not only about this game. When we talk to them, it's all about them redeeming themselves. It's actually really interesting. When you talk to them about the matches that they played in the past, and also BlizzCon last year, they straight up admit that, especially in the games against Fnatic at BlizzCon 2016, they felt more so that they played weak, that they allowed too many mistakes on their end to be exploited by Fnatic. And that they were way more impressed by the European teams when they played at the mid-season brawl, because they said, well, back then at the mid-season brawl, we felt we played to our potential, but it was just not enough to beat the European teams here. But now they are here, they are back for revenge, and they want to show that they are on the top of the skill level here. So far, especially after the bootcamp that we had with the European teams in Korea, they said they feel really good. The European teams, they respect Korea at this point, and MVP Black seems to be the team to beat. Even though before we headed into the tournament, everyone's eyes were on Fnatic, it's now once again MVP Black.
I think even the European teams themselves actually had a bit of a sense of realization when they went over there and think, actually, we're not as strong as we thought we might have been. These are different ideas that can come across, and ideas might be coming across in this one. A Sound Barrier has to be dropped on down. Tist is low, and they're going to look for that CC overlapping, and that's exactly what's going to happen. 2 frontliners gone now on the side of MVP Black. Signs of life coming across here for CE, and they're going to make sure that they drive that pressure hard home. They look for a third, but they cannot collapse. The Guillotine coming on down, but whoa, anticlimactic. It is just there for visual effect.
Yeah, I actually really love what currently is being tried to do here by Lokta, trying to get the Guillotine damage in. So far, he hasn't really committed to the kills just yet. He didn't really get the combos off properly, but it's always such a big threat. And in this case, with Black losing Rich as he was picked off, and then of course Arthur's dying too, CE gained the momentum. And it's really dangerous for a team when you go up against the Lucio composition if you're starting to lose members and get chased, because that speed bonus really allows Lucio to empower his team. And then you have Garrosh getting into range for a combo, you have Muradin ready with the Stormbolt. And talking Stormbolts, Muradin actually needs only one more Stormbolt here to complete his quest here.
Once he has that, he'll be piercing members and locking people down even harder than he did before. Speaking of, the root is there, the silence, actually, sorry, the sleep comes across as well. The cleanse rather late, but KTRA does manage to live regardless. Reset getting thrown into the backline, but barreling straight away out of that one. KTY surviving by the skin of his teeth. Dearie me, this guy has a death wish, but he does not know how to fall on down. But as you say, yes, he's sticking around. Guillotine being used on that 30-second cooldown. And I mean, just think about it. At a moment's notice, he can just drop that Armani Rage and look for that one shot.
Yeah, and let's of course not forget at this point that also once we hit level 16, it's not only about Muradin with the range increase on his Dwarf Toss and the ability to jump into the backline. We're also talking about that big power spike for Lucio with healing. So it's a really important tier level and talent to have for CE in this case. MVP Black is still ahead in experience though, and by an entire level, and they smell out Paradise, and they're going for him. He gets knocked down into the ground, and that's Muradin dead immediately here. Great pick by MVP Black. Well done by them, and they didn't get fooled at all here. 17 kills, 12 minutes into this first game of the best of 3 series already.
Absolute bloodbath there. You could see just the CC, they came like a pincer maneuver from every single angle of that map there. He popped the Avatar, he did everything he could. He even went for the healing static on the Thunderclap, but the Biotic Grenade is there. There is no chance of you living through that.
I actually think it's really interesting what we just saw there. We saw Armani Rage popped and then the guillotine on the side of Lokta, and I think the reason was basically that he realized, hey, with Muradin dead, within that cooldown range, there is no way we're going to get a fight. So I might as well throw it out, see if I can hit someone, and I might add some extra damage. Because as you can see, with Muradin now back, it's already online again, so he can go for it once more. And he might have to, but Black is ahead with an entire talent. They're on 16, but CE is still willing to fight.
They are. Sandberg coming out very early on to make sure they can survive through this one. Just leading that front charge with the army of the dead. Rich jumping on in, but Zhou Jing goes on down. Guillotine not going to be a factor in this case. Divine Shoot onto Saka himself. He wants to be that Ret Pally that tries to go for that bubble Hearth home, but he does not need to. 16 is there for MVP right now. They got minions in the bot lane. Kazra pushing for them. They got the Shrine active in the top lane if they so desire. And why not, for good measure, go into their side of the map, take their Bruiser camp, and keep them locked in.
Yeah, right now with CE being this aggressive and really trying to fight into a 16 talent, they are now in a lot of trouble because it's half a level until they finally have the next talent, and we already have Sonya working on the next Punisher at the top. Now, if you look at the minimap, we have all 4 or 3 forts eliminated on the side of CE. MVP Black hasn't lost a single one yet, which means that at this point, we're really talking about keep. And of course, with a few additional picks, you could potentially even talk about core. And that starts to be a little bit worrisome for the Chinese team. But still, they will have 16 in time.
This is the window of opportunity they can look to try and execute within, with Elufol coming into the fight. Still rich on the point. It's a 4v5. 16 actually isn't there just yet. Guillotine not going to do much at this stage. Emerald Winter try and force the fight away. And now it's going to be reset with the cocktail, with the jump on in. He gets that kill. And he says, 4v5? I don't think so. You're going to fly me over this wall, but I've got team to back me up. He's living, he's surviving. The Divine Shoot's not there for 15 seconds. He nearly got away, Caldor. But it is a 1-for-1 as Rich now rocks on up.
A 1-for-1 trade, still well done by MVP Black, considering it was a 5 versus 4 against them for a long time. The talent disadvantage for CE was enough to give MVP Black the upper hand. Garrosh down now, though, and that's the problem. The Punisher is starting to move in, and with MVP Black already behind the wall, they are applying the pressure now. The Punisher is moving through, and that keep is already being worked on. Remember what we just said a second ago. This could potentially be game, and the picks are there.
Yeah, I mean, they set it up just like that. You can see CE hungry for the fight. The sliver of XP needed for them to hit 16 was so close. You could see the idea, the execution just didn't happen to be there. Works in favor of MVP Black as the keep goes on down. That Punisher is starting to do work, still 70% and climbing in terms of how much damage it can execute onto this one. And we're only 15 minutes into this. Yes, they do aggro it to the middle lane, but now they're going to go for Paradise once again. Down so low, will the Poison Spear be enough? No, it will not. And just like that, MVP Black say, do we have to back away here? Because they're starting to get low.
Yeah, they might have to. At this point, with Muradin surviving, they're actually trying to re-engage here. Gaining a quick stun, and Guillotine comes out once more. Second stun hits home. They're trying to chase them. The 16 is there. They're 2 levels behind, but they have the talent, and they're trying to see if they can maybe lock down Rich on Sonya. He still has the hit points, so for a moment, the Divine Shield kicks in and allows him to retreat.
All the defensive ultimates had to be used there. As you saw Sandberg come across at the second as well for CE. And you have to imagine now that both teams just spread apart. They go for the back away when looking for that next wrecking ball in. But yeah, it's just not going to happen. A 1.5 level lead for MVP Black. They've set themselves up with that win condition in that top lane now.
Now, we have to, of course, talk about a few opportunities for C to come back into this. And one of the biggest chances that they have is to snowball off a single fight. Since there are still all 3 forts on the side of MVP Black, that's a lot of experience and structures that CE can grab if they are able to gain a little bit of momentum. For MVP Black, it's all about trying to play a bit safer at this point. Only go for fights if they feel they have a distinct positional advantage, and if not, wait until they have level 20, and then with the Storm Talents, play over the objective, or through a team fight, and then end the game. So that's something that CE is probably really well aware of. and it's really just the question, can they get a fight right now? Can they gain some momentum? They need to push up. They cannot sit passively here and just attempt to soak. They will never have an opportunity to fight on even talents again once that MVP Black hits them.
Absolutely. A big talking point I want to actually discuss is the fact that, you know, if Miradan or Garrosh falls on down, then the whole team really falls apart from that as well. One thing to note, level 16 on here on Lucio is up the frequency, which means, you know, every time you're going for that auto attack, you are lowering that cooldown for Amp It Up, which could find some good value here in terms of the sustained healing, the ability to try and force that re-engage, because right now these fights are sticking around for a long time, so long as nobody gets one shot.
Yeah, it's definitely not quite what we expected here from him, but once again, CE is actually starting to push forward here. Locta, by the way, did a ton of damage in this game already on Soul Jin. He's currently sitting at 83,000 and is definitely topping the charts here. On the side of MVP Black, it's Greymane, reset with 74,000 damage. But so far, especially with the guillotine, Locta couldn't really get those kills that he was looking for. He has one single kill in the entire game, and they're really trying to hit that backline, but it's rough, especially with heroes as, for example, Uther also specking into the spell shield on 13, and therefore a lot safer against guillotine in particular.
When you look at the damage charts, and sometimes it feels like a case like you're padding the stats is actually meaningful damage, and looking at that damage, they're going to go on towards Wind right there. The biotic grenade to start things off, where look how low he falls on down. Rich single-handedly forcing out the sound barrier, as now the fight comes across, and Wind is there to taunt as well. Rocking on in as Sake is forced to back away, but you can see Kyoto in such a fantastic position. Paradise in the middle of nowhere. He is definitely not having a good time right there as the Stormbolt doesn't connect, and Reset goes, I am hungry for more, but no, just like that, they have to back away. They've got the 20, and this is MVP Black's trying to take.
We talk a lot about Rich here on Sonya, and the thing is he creates so much space together with Arthurs at the front line that Reset can absolutely pop up in these fights. He's getting kill after kill. He delivered 7, more than half of the kills that MVP Black has to his team single-handedly here. And with him, of course, going for the throat here, getting his resets, no pun intended, he is just obliterating the opponent's team. And he is... all of this is just empowered by the space that is created for him. With the 20s that we have now, all of a sudden Black is pushing through the middle. They have their storm talents. And for CE, it's really just time to sit there, pray, and hope that they somehow can hold on to it. But look at the hit points on the keep. It's nearly dead already.
I mean, I was just going to say, as a result of the Punisher last time around, when they draw it through to mid lane, that's going to be a case of that falling down before the Punisher even rocks on up. And free man stunned into what could be the biggest wombo combo there. Guillotine going to come across again. Still no 20 and no chance to survive as Paradise uses that healing static from the Thunderclap to do whatever he can. He's out napping whilst the rest of the team are defending, and they come in for the claps. They go for the kill, hacking and slashing, taking down Garrosh and looking for a double now.
Divine Shield on the Greymane. Once again, nearly getting the kill against Paradise, but the shields are already falling on the core. CE is in trouble. MVP Black going in for the kill, trying to take game number 1. The sound barrier comes out. 20 still not there for the Chinese team, and the core is down to 50% as MVP Black is going in for it.
They are, and there's no chance for CE to stick around in this one here. No 20 and no chance with the members falling on down, and the game just being too stalled out to a point where they just could not ever contest MVP Black.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive also on the support side what we're just seeing from MVP Black here. With Arthurs in the setup, and of course then you have against them Locta on Soul Jin. That was definitely one of the worrisome moments. But Ana alone had 100,000 heals in this game, and then another 50k on Sako and Uther, even though he was more focused on utility and trying to empower Greymane. So it was really difficult to kill anyone on the side of MVP.
And I want to take that point even further and just give the viewers at home a bit of perspective. 100,000 on Kyoto alone. The combined efforts of both Brightwing and Lucio only netted 100,000. Just feel how much influence Ana actually had in this game.
MVP Black takes game number 1, and we're going to, of course, hear a little bit more about our first map in this series from our analyst.
That's right, difficult to kill off MVP Black there, as they were mentioning. Ana putting out so much healing on the backside of that. And whilst MVP Black did win that game, there were still some glimmers there for CE. They still looked what I would consider to be more formidable than I expected them against MVP Black.
Yeah, what a team needs to do if they're going to be able to defeat MVP Black is you got to be aggressive early on. MVP Black plays like they own the map every step of the game. So if you can get out, find them where they're trying to take maybe multiple mercenary camps at the same time and punish them for that, then you're going to be able to keep up with them. And CE did have some picks earlier on, but in the mid-game, that's where things started to really go the way of MVP Black.
I feel like when we had the double sleep darts coming through, it was a setup with the double sleep into a root from Arthas into cocktail damage for days, and we saw so many moments where it was a sleep, or a double sleep into a root, which sometimes was a triple root just because the angle was so good there for Tist, and then you just see this damage just happen over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Everyone on CE is too low, and then they just get bullied behind the wall. And we saw a few times where Garrosh almost punished that, where we saw Reset die over the wall that one time there at the keep, but overall, Black played safe enough when they had those advantages, and I think that's really what won them out.
So they would use Garrosh as their own way to engage, actually. Tist multiple times would walk straight into that Garrosh and force a fight.
Yeah. Is there any hero that Tist isn't good at? Because I don't think I've seen his Arthas before, but even that was phenomenal.
I heard he's not very good on Nova. That's what.
Unfortunately.
Well,
That's a
I think
hard
teams
one.
can
That's a high skill
definitely
cap.
take advantage of that one.
I have got word that we had a little bit of an unusual situation, as I do interrupt you guys for a moment. So Twitch went down whilst we were, or our stream went down whilst we were towards the end of that. So we're going to replay the last minute of that fight so that people can see the conclusion, as we don't want you to miss a thing back at home. So as you can see, if you would like to do whatever you wanted to do to recap what happened in the final minute.
I mean, we could just watch this last fight happen here. You can see that CE is playing very passively here. Punisher's heading up, keeps going to go down. See this root again? These are the roots I'm talking about. Everyone's low, and now Black could just bully anyone. Punisher gets a double stun, and this is just a field day. Good play here by Aluful to try to disengage. Saves everybody from dying, but it just feels like this is the end of the line here for CE. Too much pressure. Everyone's too low, and they don't have supports that can burst heal everyone up like this, and it's just kind of a runaway train for Black at this point.
Constant cocktails, constant coming in, the 20 to 19, and 3-man Punisher coming in. It was just a little bit too much, as the rest of MVP Black sets up pretty well here on the core. Sonya, of course, with Greymane, pretty deadly.
Yeah, so you say Sonya Greymane, and it's not just that those two together are deadly, but for MVP Black, these are just about two of the best picks for Rich and Reset you could ask for. Reset averages something like 4.7 kills per game when he plays Greymane, and when you look at Reset's Greymane and then Rich's Sonya, they die on average very little. Get them off of these comfort picks, it's a different story. Then they're kind of more over-aggressive. You might be able to get picks, but getting those two together, I felt like already kind of spelled what that game was going to look like for CE.
I feel like it was like a miracle comp in a certain way. Like, you have these two players on their best heroes. You have a comp that can work with the sleep darts into the roots, and it was just... Tist, I think, was probably the best player in the game in terms of just setting up these plays. Like, he was like a setter in the volleyball game, and then Reset slamming it, smashing it over the net. And we just saw over and over and over again. He sets up the plays that with coaches sleep darts. And then if you're CE, who's running an unusual draft, a little bit less practice, when those things go wrong, like, what do? You kind of just have to hide behind the wall, and Black just goes and goes and goes.
I do want to say that it was an ambitious composition for them to try and come in against MVP Black against, with just the Zul'jin to try and kind of win that out for them. But it feels like if you're going to go up against MVP Black, sometimes that's what you kind of got to try and do.
I mean, Lotar did look comfortable on that hero.
Yes.
I just don't think that they expected how much Ana can be quite annoying to play against, offensively and defensively. That sleep dart consistently to shut down the entire team. You would see a sleep dart come out, Paradise would get locked down, sleep for a couple seconds, and they would just ignore a Murden. You don't ignore Murden.
They just punished Paradise so many times. That's something I also wanted to mention is Paradise was trying to hide in the bushes, do the Murden thing where you get a little bit of extra vision. You threaten to stop the rotation, try to dismount people. He was slept and killed over and over and over again. He was punished by every time he overextended, got interrupted in his dwarf toss, or was slept before he could get into his dwarf toss. They wait for him, kill him instantly, just kind of collapse on him. We see this actually in Overwatch as well with Ana, where you sleep someone, rest of the team is too far away, everyone just blows them up as they wake up. And, in that position, because you're being the murder and you think you have that escape, you go far away from your team, but when you get slept, there's no way out.
All right, short interlude now whilst we get ready for game number 2. But before we do that, let's hear from those who, in part, make the HGC 2017 finals possible.
The 2017 Heroes Global Championship Finals are brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
All right, game number 2 on the way in just a moment here for CE going up against MVP Black. MVP Black 1 game away from being able to advance on to Blizzcon and the quarterfinals. We're going to be heading to Cursed Hollow to find out here as MVP Black's choices come into play. What are we making of the Battleground choice?
Give me Tyrael. Well, first off, I'm okay with the Battleground. And another reason, because I want that Tyrael here from Wings. Control the bosses, continue to get the engages you want. Holy Ground 16. Everything is important here for CE, and they can run well with that composition. We've seen it in the past, and I want it pulled out.
Another not common battleground choice for the team that was picking MVP Black, not often picking Cursed Hollow. They did pick it versus L5. That series was, I think, about midway through the phase, but still seeing some changes, some adaptations for MVP Black for whatever reason it may be.
Well, let's see if they can do it here. One game away from qualifying on to the quarterfinals here. MVP Black going up against CE. Can the Chinese team keep their hopes alive in the upper bracket of Group A?
I think that this has always been a strong map for both MVP teams. Miracle obviously having a worse win rate on it because they didn't have as much success this year in 2017, but this is a map I feel like Black is just going to try to play the timings of the map. Get an early lead with the camps. They have really good understanding of macro in the soul lane.
Yeah.
You get an early lead, you try to parlay it into a 2 tribute advantage. That's when you start threatening bosses. That's when you're trying to get that level 10 with your solo laner, and that's the moments where I think a lot of teams struggle against MVP teams on this map because they've been around for so long, these players, and they just know the timings and the little subtle things you could do on this map very well.
Yeah, MVP sees the game so many minutes far ahead of where you're actually sitting. And that makes certain battlegrounds like them on Dragonshire just insane. I couldn't believe seeing Deadly Kittens even pick Dragonshire versus them because of how strong they are.
Look at this,
so
11-1 on this map for MVP Black. Very heavily picked by them, as well as Sky Temple. I mean, it's a map that you're not surprised to see Black pick up early here.
So the question is, will CE try to come in and disrupt those timings that you were talking about? Ways it can do that? Globals. We've seen a lot of globals being used on Battleground in the past. Dahaka is a hero that we've seen from CE in the past. Also, the addition of Brightwing and how strong she has been lately. And there she is, getting pulled in. If you could find those timings that MVP Black is trying to separate and try to maybe grab a Night Camp while going in for a Giant Camp, if Brightwing invade with a hard diver can be enough to disrupt them.
Feels like they always wanted to go down the Brightwing path initially, and it seems like they didn't have much confidence in Brightwing and Lucio last game, so denying the Lucio from MVP Black, and then going for something like a bit more heavier healer as a punch of a heal. Sounds
I think
reasonable.
The reason why we see Rhaegar picked so often on this map for Korean teams is they will run Wolf Run, they'll go do the camps, the early camps, they can start them, obviously they can solo them if need be, they have really good wave clear. It can help you do faster rotations towards boss, so if you're invading a boss, you send Rhaegar over, you heal the tank who's threatening it, that buys just enough time. It's one of the faster support rotation heroes when Lucio is obviously removed here, so it leads towards also a hyper carry that has a larger health pool. We know Tracer's not going to be the hyper carrier of Black because Brightwing is already picked, so they're moving away from that. I think both teams are playing it safe right now. It almost feels like a game of chicken. You commit to the hero that has counters first, I'll counter it, and both teams are trying to play safe.
Who gets the gray main? CE pick it here for Loktar? Or
They have
are they
to.
willing? Yeah, that was my thought too, but no, they're going to get Johanna and Dahaka going the full global type strategy and playing the best Dahaka skin in the game.
It is the best hockey
I
sim.
can agree with
Yes.
that, yeah.
This is also the best color scheme for it as
Yeah,
well.
that's what definitely.
Yeah.
Diva.
It was
Diva
all
Dahaka.
that. It was all of it, yeah. What do you think about the Johanna so far that we've seen and her power level in this Turks? From my perspective, I'm not that impressed with Johanna's position in the meta right now. Maybe that's just my personal opinion.
She's gotten better with the latest patch that gave her a little bit more help. Before that, she was very difficult to run, but I think she's actually going to be in a solid spot. The question for me is, why is she so high in priority here for CE?
I think the reason why she's higher in priority is because they're just looking for a safe tank. Muradin already gone, and they're like just waiting again. Like, let's see what Black does. Let's try to respond. And Johanna's the highest, tier tank that's available in this moment, I think, for CE.
But we've seen this exact same draft rotation against MVP Black before, too. It was a Johanna Dahaka on Sky Temple, and at that point, I thought that DK were going to move into potentially a Cassia as their hyper carry because of being able to combo the blinds, but they didn't end up doing that. We'll see if they still want to do it here, but then again, Greymane is still up.
This is why I was worried about Johanna, though. I feel like Johanna struggles in the Sonya matchup. Muradin can play around her at any point. She can't lock them down that well. Her rotation in this battleground is actually quite slow with how far the lanes are between top, middle, and bottom. Hopefully it works out for them, but they're moving straight into Tassadar and Tracer. So they're trying to have an anchor to run to in case things do get hairy for them, but Tracer Tassadar will definitely be the name of the game here for CE.
This is an interesting one. It's also really weird to see Li Ming picked here. It's an old staple of Black in the past before the double support meta became popular in Korea to play Li Ming for tribute interrupts, especially when you don't have a global.
Yes.
So Sonya can stay in the top lane longer. You keep buying time, but It makes me wonder if we're going to see a second DPS here and not double support out of MVP Black, looking for more burst damage to kill Tracer. Something like the Gul'dan even is totally possible here, I feel like. Or if I can ruin everything Tracer is trying to do, you get those kills against Tracer, then Brightwing resets, etc., etc., etc. So something to consider here. I think it'd be really odd if they tried to make Sonya kind of their secondary source of damage and built into a second support here.
I mean, it could work with a Morales.
I was going to say, something like a Morales or
Yeah.
even an Oriel, is that possible?
I mean, Ana cooldown reduction with Nano, like, can you imagine Reset, who's touted by many to be the best Leeming in the world, as name fitting for the hero? Can you imagine this guy with Nano Boost and Dominance and
We're about to experience
resets? Like, I think the Ana is the only support that works in this situation.
An interesting little comp that they've built here. Going down the double support once again. But what do you think about it, Gilly?
Well, my main concern for CE is that they have drafted Tassadar and Dahaka together, which means that they are putting a lot on the shoulders of Tracer to be able to get the picks. And looking at things that we have to deal with the early pulse bombs, you've got armor from Muradin if he uses Dwarf Toss. You've got Li Ming who can go into Force Armor to help out with those earlier on. And then you've still got this double support to try to, as long as you can keep Li Ming alive through that, then if they're able to start whittling people down in these longer fights, CE's going to have trouble because they are putting so much on a Tracer.
I think they were just picking the Johanna here just to make sure if Ana or Morales did get picked up, they wouldn't have difficulty. My first thought was like, why not ETC to Haka? That's a really solid combo together. They can get the engages they want. They can force targets. Tracer can move in. But Johanna makes it much safer for them. So I can see why they went down that route. I just wonder if it's going to pay off.
That's the wrong Lee there, just so you guys know on the lower. It's not a Lee.
No, it's the right Lee, just nobody knows it.
I didn't even see that. That's really funny.
I saw a panda down there, and I was like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
You cheeky little fella.
He does as much damage as a Li Ming, pretty much. Water Dragon, Double Dragon at 20. It's pretty broken.
If that's what you like.
I think this is going to be a different Ana game than what we saw last time. It's going to be just more about the healing output for Sonya. Muradin obviously can sleep people, denying tributes and things like that, but I think it's not going to be kind of that combo like we saw last game. It's just going to be for big team fights with the Nano Boost.
How do you see CE's chances coming back to force a 1-1 situation? Your silence speaks volumes.
Yeah, personally, I think that'll be MVP Black winning 2-0 in this series.
Muradin and Sonya together with a Li Ming to back him up. The ability for Nano Boost to come in, like, that is intimidating.
They have no way to camp well either. Like, they have no camp control on this map. That Black is so good at controlling the camps. Like, they have Rhaegar, they have Sonya. Like, camp control is totally on MVP Black's side. Johanna doesn't gain you anything in terms of the blind, really, because they went into a Li Ming Nano comp. Like, I feel like this could be a very one-sided game.
All right, well, thank you very much, guys, as we now head over to our commentary team. Kaldor and Skinny are going to take us into game number 2 here between CE and MVP Black.
Well, we already have the lead for MVP Black. Thank you very much, Kilaris. And we're going to find out right now if that's going to be the 2-0. I feel like the one argument in favor of the draft that we see from CE is that they have the globals on their side.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, but then it kind of plays against what they've told us so much is their strength, right? We want a team fight. We want to go actually, in their face, raw aggression. But then they say, hey, we're going to go to Cursed Hollow, and we're going to try and do macro, which is not our strength.
Exactly. Like, the team fights are going to be interesting here. We have Tracer. We have 2 globals on the other hand as well. So maybe playing around MVP Black is going to be the recipe for success here. We're going to head into game number 2 now to find out if CE can tie the series up, or if we're going to have MVP Black take the 2-0 victory and move on to Blizzcon.
Game number 2 here in the upper finals with MVP Black currently leading the series in a 1-0 situation. This one here, secure them with the #1 seed coming out of this group, which is exactly what they're after. And on your screen currently is none other than CE fighting for their survival to try and secure that second spot. It is KTY on the right wing. You're going to have Wind on Johanna, Loktar on Tassadar, Paradise on Dahaka, and Aluful on Tracer.
And to the right side of the map, MVP Black with Kyoja once again on Ana, doing a fantastic job on the last map. Sako and Rhaegar reset, one of the best players, if not the best player in the world right now, on Li Ming. He's going to be one of the benefiters from Ana's Nano Boost. We have Rich again on Sonya, and Tis on Muradin, trying to give CE a taste of their own medicine for game number 1.
Yeah, it really feels to me like their comp, once again, is all about that aggression, getting into the front line and just finding a kill, and almost like Tis saying, this time I'm going to show you how to play the Muradin. We've got the sleep dart on our side once again, so Paradise You tried to jump that back line. You tried to exert some pressure, but hey, let me show you how it's done.
Now, there's already a couple of interesting things. I've watched a ton of scrims from MVP Black, from the European teams, just over the last few days and also during the boot camp. There's some interesting parts about what we see from Korea a lot. Here on level 1, we already have Perfect Storm taken by Muradin. So as other teams, especially in the Western scene, when they play Muradin, tend to be a bit more on the passive side and trying to go for survival on level 1. The Koreans really, really love to go into Perfect Storm, get that additional damage in that allows them to just blow up targets a little bit easier. So that's something that we're going to see quite a bit throughout the tournament, I feel. Muradin is picked by one of the Korean teams, and in this case, TIST is no exception here. So already speccing heavily into the Storm Bolt.
I mean, it used to be the go-to, definitely earlier this year, or even late 2016, when that was the go-to, especially in the eastern regions. And, you know, you'd find that stun target, that person would die regardless if you're a tank or not. But you can already see here, Luful taking a lot of damage to Sleep Dart. Actually finding its target. Kyocho really on point with the sniping potential, making sure that those blink charges, yes, they can be annoying, but he's got eyes in the back of his head.
Yeah, also interesting now when we're talking about the tank choice. Johanna has been picked very early in the draft for CE, really setting their hopes on her. And with Hold Your Ground on level 1, they're already acknowledging that there's going to be a lot of pressure on her, getting the cooldown reduction for the Iron Skin, the increased shield as well. So really trying to make sure that Johanna is going to be that pillar that is really difficult to take down. But Luful over here in a bit of trouble, trying to get the kill against Saka, and they get it. Saka actually surviving, and it's Tracer that is down. Saka barely getting out of there, as we already saw the Haka moving in. Sleep Dart loads him into place, and all of a sudden he's surrounded by 4 members of MVP Black.
I mean, you can almost understand what C were trying to do there. Yes, it's 2 minutes into this one. C don't have the best control for those giant camps by MVP Black. I mean, they'll be looking to try and take the Rhaegar there. I can understand it, but you say Tracer didn't have the support from his team. The team coming 1 by 1.
I mean, it's really frustrating. Look at this situation here. It looked like Lufu gets the kill, but it's actually Saka that survives. Walks into Kyoja, who just barely saves him before Paradise on the Haka goes in and at least makes it a 1-for-1 trade. All of a sudden, Black is ahead with 2 kills. Couldn't get that camp in time, but still a pretty cool situation here for the Korean team.
Yeah, Test nearly actually getting completely baited out there as he jumped across, and that could have been the 1v1. I mean, he could have clutched it, despite how close Lufa was to death. He nearly, literally by fragments, missed out on that kill on Sake.
But as you already said, I really like the idea of CE here. They said, well, we don't have really the control over the camps on the map. We know what Black is going to try and do with Rhaegar here, so let's try and disrupt that. So definitely a good move from CE. The execution in the end was not as perfect as it needed to be, but the idea was definitely the right one.
Absolutely, you can see him once again being nimble as dodging left, right, and center, causing trouble here from MVP Black as the Stormbolts this time will not connect, allowing Kyocho an easy follow-up for that piercing Dark Quest talent. So with this first one spawning in the bottom lane, you once again argue that CE with that global should actually have the benefit, as they will have both Tahaka and Brightwing still keeping up lane pressure in the mid lane, in the top lane, forcing MVP Black to go for this 3v3 skirmish.
Yeah, one of the big problems that we have on the other hand for CE is that Brightwing at the top lane really can't leave the lane right now. Or if Brightwing moves in with the global, there needs to be some immediate value, meaning you need to get a kill. Because the issue really is that you have Sonya against you. And even with Brightwing on level 1, once again going into Dreamshot, if you have Sonya on the lane and you give her any wiggle room, she is going to drop the structures. And the towers are already gone because it's definitely a mismatch in favor of Sonya. And Rich is exploiting it to its fullest.
I mean, 100%. It's not like you're going to be looking for that curse point or even the second one to try and utilize it going forward. Look at how much damage Reset just took there, but Alufo forced her back away. And yeah, just to finish my point before, I mean, if you do take the Brightwing down, it's only the first trip. It doesn't really matter. Yes, they do get it in the end, but look how much pressure Rich got from that sort of stalemate of like, are you going to go, are you not?
Yeah, so we still have enough experience on the side of CE that they can keep up in talents in particular. But Tracer, this time, done goofed at the bot lane, taken out, and that is kill number 3 for MVP Black. 3-0 in the kill count, and MVP Black is starting to take a solid lead in experience. And also, executing that map control that we heard already our panel talk about earlier with Sonya, with Rhaegar, just roaming the map, especially since Rhaegar, of course, as already predicted by Wolf, spec into Wolf Run here on level 1, followed by the Feral Heart, trying to make sure that he gets those faster rotations on the map going for him.
And we've always known Korea to be a strong macro region. You can see they go for the Giants before the first one, they go for the Night Camp after the second one, keeping that pressure up, keeping these globals locked in place. They're a half-level lead ahead. But you can see really on the flip side of that, CE saying we need to put all our eggs into the basket of this Tracer hype train. Look yeah, level 4, untouchable. Something you typically see in your Hero League games, you're thinking we've lost this game, but they are so reliant on him actually packing a punch. It could do a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. If you get the stacks together, that really helps you. You need to apply the pressure to Anna later on. You need to apply the pressure to Living, for example. And in order to do that, if you get those untouchable stacks, that is going to be a huge point in your favor. The problem is, of course, that upon dying, you are losing all of them. But CE is really putting their eggs into that one basket. So just one tricking it through the Tracer here. At this point, we have level 10 kicking in for MVP Black as they go for the tribute. One of them there, CE has, of course, to give up here since they haven't reached their heroic abilities just yet. But this is where things are going to become extremely interesting right now, since we now also have isolation and safety tools with Emerald Wind, and having Archon for a little bit of additional damage, and that could be quite powerful here.
Look at that, KT1 Kyoch having a bit of a support off there, saying, are you going to dodge? Are you going to dodge? And it wasn't going to happen because the action happens in the top side of the map. Yes, they bait out the Dahaka and they go for the 3-man collapse, and with that in mind, potentially MVP Black looking to try and threaten a boss before this next tribute spawns.
Yeah, right now we're already having 12 stacks on Muradin, 9 stacks on his Perfect Storm on level 1, so some additional burst damage already for them. And if that at any point hits Tracer later on, even a Tacita shield might not be enough to save you there, so that's definitely a concern for them right now. Whereas when we're talking about Black, keeping Anna safe with Vega shouldn't really be the biggest problem. Black is doing everything right. CE needs to somehow build momentum. If they don't accomplish that, they will be in for a very rough ride here, with now the 3rd tribute spawning on the map.
It is spawns on the side of CE, favoring them, as Dahaka is still in the top lane, doing whatever he can to try and bridge that gap in this XP differential. But this will work quite well for MVP. They can get an ace, they can look to try and steal away the boss as well. Here's going to be that juking of the poke, which would in favor work for MVP Black, especially with reset there. All set up by the ideals of a Stormbolt, a Sleep Dart, the one shot that can come across.
Now we're talking about the globals for CE. We have already mentioned them a little bit earlier, but this is really where Dahaka at the top lane is starting to get a bit of value. Now makes the move down to the bot lane. They're trying to go for the experience as Rich is pushing in the mid lane, and the rest of the team was isolated to an extent where they couldn't rotate anyone top. Brightwing is taking the bottom, but needs to move in right now. There's a Siege Giant camp pushing, but they need to somehow try and interrupt Kyoja here, but it's not happening. CE is getting pushed back completely. MVP Black pushing forward quite aggressively, putting the pressure onto Johanna. Brightwing not moving in. Dodging the Stormbolt, though, on the other hand, as MVP Black starts the rotation to the bottom of the map to help those Siege Giants take a few more structures.
As soon as level 16 is unlocked, that kind of distance is achievable, especially with the stun at 7. The impact really starts to snowball out of control. But now CE come down to this bottom lane, looking to try and turn things around. Yes, Dahaka is still in that top lane. Won't have the brush look here yet, I don't believe. Will be quite close regardless anyway. But the bridging of this XP has now been met. 13 is on the horizon for MVP, and they're on Curse Point.
I mean, at this point, we're really looking at even experience just simply because of the globals. And it's the big strength of CE. They have Brightwing, they have Dahaka. They can play around those two. Without Dahaka and Brightwing in this game, I'm pretty sure that we would already see a very solid lead for MVP Black in experience by at least a level. But the way that this is played right now is that CE is, of course, trying to use their strength, the strength of the draft, as much as they can. The problem is that with the next tribute spawning soon, MVP Black has a potential curse on their hands. And that's where CE will have to react. They could eat the curse if they really feel confident enough that they're not losing too many structures, but they are already pressured. And I think we will see them commit to the team fight, but they have their 13 talent. That's important. With Icebolt Nullification, this is great tools, or are great tools for them, where they can try and take Black down. But of course, Nano boosted Sonya, Nano boosted Li Ming, that's always a huge threat.
Yeah, they are going to be slightly late to this one with both the combo of Tracer and Tess coming up to the fight now. Yes, as you mentioned, open and even when it comes to the XP, but that's going to be when just look at his health bar disintegrate. It doesn't matter what kind of tank you are, just gone.
Yeah, that was a bit of a misplay by him as well. Like, they went into the bush, and the problem is that MVP Black was waiting, and when you saw Wind moving in, he immediately pressed his Iron Skin. He expected Muradin to immediately go for the stun, but that didn't happen. We actually saw Muradin holding it back, and now it's just a snowball. Tacita is down. We're seeing additional kills following up right away as Dahaka is eliminated. So with Sonya, it's the first kill. Now it's a triple kill. The curse is active. They get a counter kill at least against Li Ming, but you can already tell that this is not pretty. Brightwing drops 2, and experience just snowballing away from CE.
It's an absolute disaster right there, starting off with Wind falling on down, but one by one they fell as CE come across with that. Luful finding his first stack of the game with that untouchable, as he did take down Reset, preventing any further snowballing in this situation. But with the curse point being active, lanes being pushed, globals or not, bottom, top, and mid will be pushed in for free right now as MVP look to try and exert some pressure on towards this keep.
Yeah, this is actually starting to become disgusting here. I mean, they have nearly a 2-level lead at this point. They are taking control over the entire map, and it all really came down to that one rotation. It was a bit too slow, face-checking that bush, seeing Muradin panicking, dropping the Iron Skin immediately, and Muradin just said, well, I'm just gonna wait a few seconds, and then we're going to stunlock you into oblivion, take the kill, take the curse, and then we're gonna snowball, and that's exactly what they're doing here.
And I mean, much the same as game number 1 on Infernal Shrines as well. It just doesn't feel like CE have actually woken up to the idea of a team fight. They've gone for this composition, which is hybrid, which is against what we know and love them for. But we actually haven't seen a true and tested team fight to try and find out how these comps scale one by one or up against each other, for lack of a better term. And I mean, one kill there, it was a scrappy kill like that, but still, you say the idea of Tracer being the big central point of this comp, we need a fight to try and unlock that level 4 talent.
I mean, just look at level 13, we have Ricochet taking for Tracer, and that just tells us even more that they are trying to go through their level 4, through the ability to get extra damage with Untouchable, and then Ricochet to really have her being the driving force in big team fights. But as you said, that doesn't really happen here. And Black is now taking the second boss as well. CE is finally getting enough experience to claim the next talent level. So on 16, we now have, of course, also a spike that they can use, especially through Tassadar, who now has the double storm. He's, by the way, still a fair amount away from finishing his Psy Fusion quest on level 1. He's currently at 765 stacks. But overall, MVP Black is just driving the agenda. It's 8 kills against 1, and we don't even see Tiss with his completed quest yet. He still needs 2 additional hits.
Look at the range onto that. Locked-on nearly getting one-shot cross as KTY coming on through with the phase shift, going straight away for the Emerald Win. The Pulse Bomb's going to connect, but the Mind-Numbing Agent will do so much to negate how strong that can be. Ice Block is there, but only delaying the inevitable as the Silent Storm drops to the floor, but it's not going to be enough to try and swing this fight in favor of CU. Once again, forced to back away, win the second to fall. Now they collapse onto Testar for the triple kill. Can I get a quad? Maybe the ace. They all fall on down like dominoes, and just like that, MVP Black say the core is ours, and this series is ours.
This feels like a Walmart sale for now, a 5-for-1 right there, and MVP Black is just absolutely rushing through the bot lane. The keep is down, they go for the core, and this should be game. MVP Black ahead already in the series, and they claim victory on Cursed Hollow as well, making it a clean 2-0 against CE, and they move on to fight at Blizzcon.
They will, securing their ticket through to Anaheim, and we have to see how that story really progresses through this event. Is this the event where they really wake up to their potential that they've so desperately been seeking? But CE now dropped into that lower bracket, looking to go up against who will then be facing either Tempo Storm or Deadly Kittens. That second spot, all up for grabs.
MVP Black definitely the favorite in the group. Everybody expected them to be the ones fighting for the #1 seed, and that's what they accomplished to do here. So that was extremely well done. But it was a very dominant performance at that, and especially on the second map, it never really looked as if CE had a chance to fight back.
No, it didn't. And CE, I mean, you have to start asking questions about their drafting ability there. They tried to go against what we know them for, and they tried to almost play a counter style against a team that you know is going to come at you with aggression. So why not almost play like the erosion tactics of 2 boxing gloves punching together?
So far, a great tournament for MVP Black, and of course, we're going to hear a bit more about the series now from our panel.
That we are. Thank you very much, guys, as we get on with MVP Black advancing on to BlizzCon, doing very well for themselves. And the word that I can think about from that series was outclassed. Very impressive stuff there from MVP Black.
They have way too many weapons. I mean, you go down the list and you're like, hey, don't give them Li Ming. Don't give them Sonya. Maybe you shouldn't give them Muradin. And now we add Kyocha on the Ana. That guy is hitting blind darts behind walls. It is borderline impressive and almost scary to play against.
Let's not forget the Rhaegar kill.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty nice.
There's been a few times where, I travel to Heroes events and I'm able to cast or sit on the panel really close to the players. And that's one of those moments where we're all standing together watching the games here on this panel, and I get to hear Sake just scream. It's almost silent behind us at that moment, and I think that's kind of a sign of MVP Black's power level at this moment.
Yeah, MVP Black were 14-0 in league play. They barely lost any games. They didn't lose a series. I don't see why they should have to start now.
It's a good statement there from MVP Black moving into the quarterfinals, saying this is where we are, but they've not necessarily shown everything. They've just shown, you know, some pretty standard normal things that we expected to kind of see coming into this tournament.
What makes me happy is how different the tone is between the Eastern Clash and what we see here at BlizzCon for MVP Black. At the Eastern Clash, they were bubbly confident. They were smiling, they were giggling, joking around a lot. Here, they're a little bit more stern, and they're bringing that same confidence, but they're showing up here on day number 1.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway for Black is watch out for Kyocha's Ana. I really think that everything else we've seen has been pretty standard, right? We saw it Rich on Butcher, but it was, I feel like, a little bit of fun. We know that, you know, we've heard the rumors, at least, that he's been practicing it, said on the interview. He's been trying to do this as a counter to Sonya, but overall, I think this is the first time we've really seen Ana in professional play in the Open, and it's a great showcasing of her skills.
Gilly, final thoughts? We see not down and out just yet. They have still another opportunity to be able to move through into the quarterfinals.
Yeah, CE will be waiting for the victor between Deadly Kittens and Tempo Storm, which is up next. Would love to see a Tempo Storm CE rematch, but I'd also love to see how Deadly Kittens can do versus them. So I'm really excited for the next 2 matches of this group.
Very true. Well, of course, we do have Mr. Kevin Cloken at the stage, even, I should say. So take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Kai Loris. And I'm here with the captain of MVP Black. This is Sake. Fantastic performance there in your second matchup here in group stages. You advance to BlizzCon. You take your seat as one of the 8. Fantastic. I want to get your thoughts, though, on your performance. How do you feel like your team's playing? We watch, we see fantastic play, but is this the finest form of MVP Black, or is there yet to come something even greater?
먼저 8강 우승 진심으로 축하드립니다. 그리고 앞으로 좋은 활약 기대합니다. 그리고 개인적으로 사키 선수에게 질문 하나 드리고 싶으신데요. 그 사키 선수 개인적으로 지금 현재 MVP 블랙이 어떻게 지금 팀이 운영되고 있고 지금 잘 하고 있는 건지 아니면 연습한 대로 지금 진행이 되는 건지 궁금해서 여쭙고 싶습니다.
일단 유럽에서 한국으로 와준 유럽 3팀 덕분에 많이 실력 폼이 올랐고 뱀픽적인 부분도 도움이 되고 그리고 코치인 노블레스 선수가 있어서 굉장히 마음을 편하게 대회에 임하고 있어요.
First, we have to thank the 3 European teams that came to Korea because they helped a lot during our practices, and we actually figured out how to use band picks very well. And we would also like to thank Noblesse for our coach, who's acting coach right now, who's helping us very nice right now. So that's why we feel more comfortable during the stages.
Awesome, that's right. EU teams did boot camp, all 3 of them in Korea, so they did get some great experience, as did your team as well. I do want to ask you, though, about those Ana picks. This is the first time we've seen Ana played in the HGC. I want to get your thoughts on her. Will we be seeing a lot of her in this tournament? And how do you feel like she brings strength to your team compositions?
그 아나 영웅에 대해서 좀 질문을 드리고 싶은데요. 지금 저희가 HGC에서 아나를 처음 봤는데요. 그래서 앞으로도 아나를 많이 활용할 계획이신지, 아나에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시는지 좀 여쭙고 싶습니다.
아나가 되게 전략적 픽을 가졌을 때 힘을 발휘하는 것 같아요. 그래서 이번에 한번 보여줬기 때문에 다른 팀이 만약 저희 팀이 만약 한 번 더 꺼냈을 때 다른 팀들이 준비를 잘 해올 것 같고 만약에 한 번 더 쓰면은 좀 더 완벽하게 조합을 짜 와야 이길 수 있을 것 같아요.
He says that Ana is a very strategic pick, so it works well when you strategize it very well in the beginning. But since we already showed them once, and other teams will try to find out how to counter Ana, it might be hard, so we have to try one more time, or if we bring it up, we need to be very perfect.
All right, well, Sake, congratulations again. We're going to see you at BlizzCon. I can't wait to see your performance there on that stage. Congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, our first team of 8 claims their spot at BlizzCon in the Anaheim Convention Center. We'll be right back with more Here's of the Storm action. Stick with us.